Day 3 of 7 at the Tour of Poland, from Jaworzno to Szczyrk, 161 kilometres, and today we go uphill, down dale. It's a testing finish on stage 3 of the 74th Tour of Poland. Starting in Jaworzno, in the south of Poland, still in the Upper Silesia region, heading through to plenty of classified climbs today. 3 lotto sprints as well along the way. First of the first category climbs coming as we go on to 2 loops of 20 kilometres. Through Wisła and then back towards the finish line. Another climb before the finish and an uphill dart to the line as well in Szczyrk. That's Danny van Poppel, the leader of the Tour of Poland, with 41 kilometres remaining on stage 3. Rides for Team Sky, unable to win a stage just yet. Sacha Modolo won and beat him just on the line 24 hours ago. 48 hours ago it was Peter Sagan and Caleb Ewan who had the best of him. He's leading for now, but with a difficult finale, it's difficult, Tony Gibb, to see him holding on to the lead.
Good afternoon, Rob. Good afternoon, everybody at home, and thank you very much for joining us. This is a race that's going to be punctuated by sprint stages and then climbing stages. It's going to be an interesting one. The lead at the moment being defended, as you can see, Sky on the front there doing a lot of work. 1 minute 13 to the breakaway. That went up to 4 minutes at one point and coming down very quickly. A very hilly stage today, isn't it, Rob? Very, very hilly stage today. In fact, in terms of classified climbs, 4 of them, and all in the second half of the stage. We had intermediate sprints in the first half. We're going to have the intermediate sprint that gives us bonus seconds in the final 30 kilometres of today's stage. And you talked about the break, Tony. Well, 7 riders up there, and they're all still together. Number 91 at the back, wearing the red jersey for Katusha Alpecin, is José Gonçalves. He's there alongside Rémi Cavagny in the royal blue. He's the former French under-23 time trial champion. Maxime Montfort, who wears number 5 at the back here, is a former top 10 finisher in the Giro d'Italia, Belgian rider. Bertrand Lindemann is there in the yellow jersey for Team Lotto NL Jumbo, a Dutch rider. Sebastian Reichenbach, riding for Française des Jeux, a very good climber, and he is a Swiss rider. 2 Poles in the break as well. Maciej Paterski, riding for CCC Sprandi Polkowice, and riding for the national team, Adam Stachowiak, also in the break as well. And earlier on today, it was a very nice moment for the most famous Polish riders in the peloton. Przemysław Niemiec, long-time helper of Ivan Basso and all the rest in the Italian teams for the last 10 years or so. He passed through his hometown, got off, kissed his wife, said hello to his family, and carried on. It was like cycling of old times. Yeah, it's always nice, isn't it, when that happens? And we've seen it in races over the years where riders are allowed to go up the road in their home village and stop and say hello to friends, family and loved ones, that sort of thing, and it's all very nice. There are those traditions in cycling, aren't there, that are honoured. And it's just one of those nice things in cycling that it's kind of dying out a little bit, but yeah, we can see there Lotto Jumbo rider Martin Kaiser in that leader's jersey.
Well, he's been in the break 2 days running, this Martin Kaiser. That's the King of the Mountains jersey here at this race. That's the pink jersey. The leader's jersey, we've seen it on the back of Danny van Poppel. That's the yellow jersey. There is a white jersey at this race, but there's no Best Young Rider prize. The white jersey at the Tour de Pologne means the best sprinter in terms of sprints on the finish line, not intermediate sprints, and that's currently on the back of Peter Sagan. The other jersey is about the intermediate sprints. They call it the most combative rider jersey. That at the minute is on the back of the Polish rider Adrian Kurek of CCC Sprandi Polkowice, who was away attacking yesterday.
I think Peter Sagan's got that by default, hasn't he, because Danny van Poppel's in the leader's jersey. There's only, I think, 3 points in it, 5 points in it, sorry, but yeah, so Sagan's wearing the white jersey at the moment, which won't look that dissimilar to his normal jersey. It'll just be minus the rainbow stripes around the middle. But you can see there Cannondale lining up at the front, and Cannondale, after the Tour de France and this year in general, it's been such a turnaround for that team, hasn't it? They were despondent beyond belief, and I know 1 or 2 of the staff members there, and they were sort of pulling what little hair they've got out, and then all of a sudden it was Tour of California, they had a result, the Giro they got a stage win as well, and then the Tour's just been absolutely fantastic for them, haven't they? Gone up to 2nd place and got that fantastic stage win in you know, running 55.11 or whatever gear that Rigoberto Urán was stuck in for the rest of that stage.
Yeah, and they've got a new sponsor off the back of the Tour de France as well to add to it. 38 kilometres remain today. Said that Sacha Modolo won the stage yesterday. That was his first World Tour win for a few years. This is where we are on the course. Still 2 categorised climbs to come. And the breakaway just with 30 seconds. You can tell that the rhythm in the peloton's fairly high as Montfort on the left-hand side just thinks about trying to up the game. There's a lot of looking around at the back, and if anybody wants to keep going from this particular group, the time to attack is approaching.
Yeah, and that sprint we were talking about is over that hill and then in the dip before that last one.
151 riders left in the Tour de Pologne. We are told by the organisers that Sam Bewley was a non-starter this morning, but they made a mistake on stage 1 with that, with Martin Vasseur, who we are assured is still in the race. So we'll wait to call that 100%. But we were told that Sam Bewley, the Kiwi rider riding for Orica Scott, did not start this morning.
Yeah, the only other abandoned so far is Ruben Guerrero of Trek Segafredo. Slightly surprising given how bad that crash was on the first stage when we saw Alex Dowsett go down, and he sent a couple of pictures out of some very nasty injuries to his neck that he picked up from a chainring.
Well, this is Sebastian Reichenbach at the front, the rider from Valais in Switzerland.
They're a team that desperately need a result, don't they? They had a disastrous Tour de France once they got that stage win out of the way, and yeah, I think they had 3 riders finish in the end, didn't they?
Oh, the peloton can see the break behind. 23 seconds, nobody able to make that move, nobody able to push on. Somebody trying to bridge across here, and Canadel Drapac have come with 6 riders. Attempt to try and get across. It looks like Davide Villela. Just have to wait and see there. Christian Correns in there as well, a very similar size and stature. Behind, certainly trying to bridge the gap, you can see Giovanni Visconti riding for Bahrain Merida, and one of the Sky Riders as well. Teams somewhere trying to get involved too, and this is a sort of circuit that could lend itself to interesting attacks.
Yeah, very much so, and you know, it's a kind of race where the difference between the GC hunters and the stage hunters is really going to show as well, and it's an interesting one. So we could see this group of 3 are going to get across. There's 2 chasers just behind them as well, but having said that, I think from the front of the breakaway back to the peloton, we've got a matter of 15-20 seconds at the very most as Montfort goes backwards at a fair rate of knots.
Well, an attempt to get forward. We know that Team Sky are in charge of the yellow jersey for Danny van Poppel. I can tell you that Dimension Data are in charge of the team prize at the minute, and it's one of their riders who's been out there and got the 1 bonus second on stage 1. That was Nathan Haas. Bonus seconds could be important. It's a week full of short stages here, 2 mountain stages to finish off, but they're not big, huge Tour de France alpine climbs that go on for 20 kilometres. Seconds are going to be important. We can see again the move being pushed on here from Canadel Drapac. I can tell you that the first 101 riders here are all separated by 10 seconds still after 2 stages. It's very tight. Yeah,
I think that might change today. It's a hard end to this stage. As you said, we've got the 4 big climbs, and then we've got that sprint after this descent. And then the kick up to the finish. In the last kilometre we climb over 100 metres, 110 metres in fact. So it's a hard finish. The run-in on the finish is very technical as well. Within the last 300 metres we've got 1, 2 very tight bends, and then a sort of almost 180 degree turn a matter of metres before the finish. So it's going to be an interesting finish.
It's going to be a very interesting finish. You can see the blue jersey wearer Adrian Kurek at the back of the peloton here. He's got the red and white CCC shorts on. He's the national champion at the moment of Poland, so although he races for the orange-clad CCC team, it's rather confusing because he's wearing a kit that looks a little bit more like the Polish national team kit. Remember, this is a World Tour race, 18 World Tour teams here, plus 4 invited teams. One of those teams with a wild card, the Polish national team, alongside Novo Nordisk, who are here to spread their changing diabetes message, Gazprom Rosfello, who we saw at the Giro d'Italia, and of course the Polish professional continental level team, the 2nd division team if you like, CCC Sprandi Polkowice.
Yeah, and that's a team that's been around a long time, and that distinctive orange kit that they've got. And we were talking before we came on air about David Rebellin, who rode for them for a very long time. I think I'm right in saying that his name escapes me now, but the Polish rider that rode in England for a long time rides for that team as well.
Marcin Białobocki.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Time trialist, superb time trialist.
Yeah, I think he won a stage in this race, or was very close to winning the time trial stage in this race last year.
This is all coming together. good riders here. There's Gregor Mühlberger, the Austrian champion, on the left-hand side for Bora Hansgrohe. Movement forward too from Sunweb.
Just trying to make out who that is from Sky in there, because they're certainly not going to do any driving, are they?
Well, not with the yellow jersey on the back of Danny van Poppel. I mean, looking down at the team this week, you would say it's down to either Wout Poels or Diego Rosa to have a go at the overall general classification, isn't it?
Well, Wout Poels was out of action, wasn't he? He only had one race before the Tour de France. I think it wasn't the Route du Sud. I can't remember what race it was, but he only had that one race and then didn't get the nod for the Tour de France.
Looks like Puccio to me. Salvatore Puccio, the Italian Classics rider, as we see one of the riders going backwards for Orica Scott there. It's Caleb Ewan, in fact. Alongside Caleb Ewan there, 193 is Alexander Porsev. So two of the sprinters already struggling out the back.
Yeah, it's no great surprise. And Caleb Ewan, he's had an interesting year, hasn't he? It's been very roller coaster. It's been up and down. He's had some great successes, but when he doesn't get those successes, he does seem to go off on holiday a little bit and just down tools almost.
Giovanni Visconti, in the meantime, driving this for Bahrain Merida. He has Vincenzo Nibali as his team leader back in the bunch. He also has Franco Pellizotti, depending on how he feels at this race. This team getting ready for the Giro d'Italia.
Looks like Quick-Step taking up the front of the bunch as well. They've got two on the front. They've just got one just coming across now, and so they're paying attention to this.
Fumiyuki Beppu towards the back, and the king of the mountains, Martin Kaiser. But of course, this is the first day we've seen first category climbs involved in the Tour of Poland. Whatever happens, we're going to have a change in the ownership of that jersey.
Jan Taknik there from CCC going backwards at a fair rate of knots as well, and he's quite a good sprinter.
Well, 35 kilometres still to go on stage 3 of the Tour of Poland 2017. It's the 74th edition of Poland's premier bike race. Of course, it's been a fixture on the World Tour calendar now for the last 10 years or so. And this has been a real good effort from Quick-Step. That looks like Laurens de Plus, who's just driving things at the front. Young Belgian rider.
Yep, doesn't look like it's going away that quickly, but look at the back of the bunch. It's in tatters down the back here.
Well, Boy van Poppel, who's been sprinting against his brother Danny the last few days. He's the man in the black and red for Trek Segafredo, just losing out. 12 there is, I should say 12, 72 rather, 122 even, is Niccolò Bonifacio for Bahrain Merida.
I think it was Tyler Farrar as well there, just getting dropped riding for Dimension Data.
Well, this is going to put the yellow jersey in trouble. The moment Sky try to surround him, trying to keep him there, Danny van Poppel, but he looks to be slipping and sliding. He's not towards the front of this group. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see Bob Jongels, who's just signed a new contract at Quick-Step. And just in front of him, the winner of the Tour de Wallonie, who you saw on your screens here on Eurosport last week, that's Dylan Turns, who picked up a stage race win for the first time in his career. So a few of the guys thinking about GC this week starting to show their face here.
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on, isn't there? We've got riders that have come out of the Tour de France who are maybe still resting.
500 metres to the top of this climb. After that, just one more classified climb to go. But look at that little lip towards the end. Anybody who does make the end today is going to have to be strong uphill to finish.
Yeah, very much so. And don't forget that sprint as well that we've got coming up. So that's in the dip between this climb and the next one. So as we were saying, you know, there's riders that have done the Tour de France that have rested. One or two might be back in here. Obviously Peter Sagan is, but he only rode 1 week of the Tour. And you know, there's a lot of bike racing going on at the moment. It's the time of year where people are negotiating contracts, and if they haven't got a win, this is a race to really try and get a result.
Rafael Maika was hanging about at the front there as Enrico Battaglini is being dropped at the back, and that tells you something about the pace. David Lozano, the Spaniard on the left-hand side in the white, he's a former national cross and mountain bike champion of Spain. He's a diabetic rider, racing for Team Novo Nordisk. He's an experienced man. He's been around the peloton for a long, long time, dropped as well as Laurens de Plus. He's putting in a real bid here to take the King of the Mountains points.
So this is the first concerted effort we've seen on the climb. Obviously, as you say, it's not an attack to try and get away. It's for the King of the Mountains points, but it might result in him getting a nice big gap. A couple of riders come across to him and they could get their heads down.
Well, Danny Van Poppel, the race leader at the minute, nowhere to be seen at the front. We haven't seen images of him being dropped out the back, but he's not in the first 20 to 30 positions. The rest of his team, Sky, the climbers at least are. Wout Poels was there, Diego Rosa was there. And this at the back is Enrico Battaglin off the pace.
Interesting one. Battaglin at the start of the year didn't even have a contract and was scratching around trying to get a deal, and then found a place at Lotto Jumbo, and that goes to show the sort of condition that pro cycling is in.
Well, 114 at the back, Tom Squinch, another guy who has fought hard to stay in the sport and has had a brilliant year. In fact, the rider from Latvia for Cannondale Drapac.
He had that awful crash, didn't he? Gary Beckett there this one year from Cannondale at the side of the road. Always wears that hat so the riders can spot him if the green green jersey isn't enough. But had that awful crash. Was it at the Gyro where he had that terrible crash? Got back up and couldn't really stand. Got back on his bike and fell off again 10 metres later. And that was right. You know, you're not getting back on your bike, which I think was the right decision. Took him a long time to come back from that.
125 towards the back there is Domen Novak, rider from Slovenia, racing for Vincenzo Nibali's Bahrain Merida team. Now some narrow roads here and visibility's not the best.
No, going in and out of the trees where you get sunlight 1 minute, shade the next. You're looking at the road, and I know it's very warm, but you do think, is that a patch of water, is there some damp there, or is it the shadow? And you can never really tell, and that affects how you go down these descents.
Movement at the back saw problems for Julien Bernard, very good, gifted French climber, son of Jean-Francois, who was a big pro in the 1980s, with our very own Sean Kelly, hearing some good stories about him at the Giro d'Italia. In the meantime, there's 33 kilometres to go on stage 3. To go. Sky made a move on the descent. Salvatore Puccio's driving it down, just trying to stretch things out after there was some damage done on the uphill, mainly by other teams. There's Diego Rosa on the left-hand side, the Italian who is back to racing. Talking to some people at Team Sky last week, they say he's really settled in now. He's taken to the training. Often takes a lot of riders quite a bit of time to settle in there, and they're very excited about what he might be able to do at the Giro d'Italia, the Vuelta a España. We've had the Giro.
It's a team where riders are either exceptionally comfortable and stay for a very long time, or get out very quickly, isn't it? There's a few exceptions, obviously. Ben Swift, for example, who's been there from the start and has then gone over to UAE this year. But generally, riders either stay there for a very long time or don't settle at all and leave. It's a hard. Pro cycling obviously is very hard, but Sky, the way they go about things, the regiment, it's very hard indeed, and they're very regimented about it. So he's settled in, and now we're seeing. I think we're seeing a new era coming through at Sky, and I think there might be quite a few changes over the winter.
We'll see who stays, who goes. While Pauls is in this team, he's heading towards the Vuelta España as well. He's just come back from quite a bit of time out injured. He's missed most of the season, in fact. But he was out there and grabbing a bonus second yesterday, so obviously feeling good and fresh. And this is his terrain as well now, and we cannot see the yellow jersey at the minute. We've had no shots from the television director to show us that he's been dropped, but you can only think that the way Sky seem to be racing for other riders, I look down here, I can't see that yellow jersey. I think that he's not in this group. I think they're racing for their main men now in terms of Pauls and Rosa. This is what happened at the King of the Mountains. It was Laurens de Plus, Dayer Quintana, Diego Rosa, and was that Antonio, or it was Antonio? Vincenzo Nibali, pardon me. Both of them are riding here. One's running 1-2-3, one's running 1-2-4. So Vincenzo Nibali close to the front towards the end on that particular climb.
It's quite interesting. Look at the shadows on the ground, and it's 5:30 in the UK, so it's 6:30 getting on for sunset time here. And speaking to some of the staff that are riding for that are working for the teams, and some of the riders, they're saying, you know, these stages are so late. We've got some quite long transfers after the stages as well. So they're saying they're getting back to hotels at sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock, starting massages and dinner and washing, etc. after that. And it's not going down particularly well with some of the staff. They're having some very late nights here.
Well, who's going to be partying late into the night? As Peter Sagan looked like he was having a bit of fun with someone. I hope it was fun anyway, because there was a threat of a bottle being thrown. The pronounced way it was done, I can only assume that it was done in good nature. I think Sagan probably feel like he has to be on his good behaviour for a while at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure later in the week we'll have a lot of opportunity to discuss that Tour de France incident, but don't think it was as clear cut as a lot of people think. But Sky on the front, they're not driving this one. There's no break up the road. They're just keeping the pace up. Don't think Van Poppel is still here in this group though.
No, the leader looks to have gone. A lot of good climbers though at this race. We can see on the right hand side in the red jersey Giovanni Visconti riding for, we assume, Vincenzo Nibali at this race. Nibali on his way to the Vuelta España. On the left-hand side is a collection of riders riding for Team Sunweb, and what a time they're having of it at the minute. We saw Chad Hager on that last climb pushing forward, but they've got some really good climbers here in the likes of Wilco Kelderman or young Sam Oman, who was so good at the Tour de l'Avenir 2 years ago.
Yeah, what a year Sunweb are having. Yeah, it's been unbelievable, hasn't it? Tommy Dumoulin taking out the Giro earlier on, and Quintana coming up short there, and then Michael Matthews and Barguil winning the green and climbers jersey respectively at the Tour de France. And it's a team that's just going from strength to strength, and one of the smaller budget teams as well. You know, compare their budget to the likes of BMC, UAE, Sky, Movistar. They're on a fraction of the budget that they're on.
We saw Adam Yates just hanging out at the back of the peloton there, riding for Orica Scott, another man who's off to the Vuelta España.
With his brother, I think they're both going to ride.
And Esteban Chavez.
Yeah.
Now that is going to be a team to watch, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it will, but Chavez, he's not had a great year, has he? And he wasn't there. He wasn't really there at the Tour de France, I thought.
Well, he suffered from the loss of his best friend at the Tour, who was sadly killed in an accident in Colombia. I'm talking about Heyman last week.
Yeah,
that apparently did knock the stuffing out of him completely, as it would anybody.
Yeah, sure.
But of course, there's that injury that he's been coming back from as well. And if he can find his form in the next few weeks, then he could be a man, if not to have a go at winning the Vuelta España, certainly work for the Yates brothers.
Well, yeah, and those two, looking at how they've gone in the Tour de France individually over the last 2 years, they're, you know, a fighting force when they're riding together. That's going to be fantastic. I think the Vuelta, again, we were talking before we came on air, and I was saying I enjoy the Giro and the Vuelta more than the Tour because it's so unpredictable. I think this year the Vuelta is going to be fantastic.
And you'll be able to see it live here on the Home of Cycling on Eurosport as well. Sean Kelly and Carlton Kirby will be talking you through the month's action. Now, I think we had some movement off the front of the bunch there. And it is Cannondale on the attack again. Motorbike bike speeds out the way before we can get a good chance to have a look. Canadello brought 6 riders to this race.
Dombrowski, is it?
Well, Joe Dombrowski did ride. That's Squinch.
Yeah.
Squinch who's out there on the attack. Dombrowski did ride the Giro d'Italia, but Squinch is there, and of course there are bonus seconds coming up at this intermediate sprint.
He's been on the floor at some point as well. He's got a couple of cuts and bruises and some spray on there from the race doctor.
TV director not helping anybody there, but it looks as though Sky and maybe Wout Poels again was out there to take some bonus seconds there.
AG2R coming to the front of the group.
And of course they had a very good Tour de France with Romain Bardet, and the way the team set up as well. They were the only team to really take it as a team. The Team Sky here, they have some very good riders. Some on their way to rest and holidays, the likes of Dupont, Bidard. Others on their way to the Vuelta a España. Pozzovivo and Montaguti.
They had a great tour in terms of how they rode and how they came together, but having spoken to a few people associated with the team, they don't feel that they had a great tour in terms of results.
So, Squinch, Poels and Montaguti, 3, 2 and 1 points respectively, but interestingly that was the intermediate sprint where the bonus seconds were given out, so the same number of seconds, 3 points and 3 bonus seconds to Tom Squinch, and Wout Poels, who was already thereabouts in the general classification, up there as well. Wout Poels, who started the day in 8th place, has just taken 2 seconds, and well, at least on paper he's moved up to 6th already with that, at 7 seconds from the leader, his teammate Danny van Poppel. Lies at just under 1,000 metres above sea level. There's plenty of climbing to get up there.
Yeah, and we had the intermediate sprint just before we went to the commercial break, and from there all the way up to the top of this last climb, it's all uphill, and at the moment it doesn't look particularly uphill, but it is just dragging. So the top of the climb is after we've done 147k, so with 11 kilometres to go, but just over 135 done now, and it does just drag up, and the actual climb is about 7 kilometres in total.
There is the man we mentioned earlier on, Przemysław Niemiec, one of the most famous Polish cyclists in the mountains for the last 10 to 15 years, of course, before the great wave of success came along. And Poland's an interesting country that we can draw comparisons with the United Kingdom with at the minute, because they've had a bit of a boom, haven't they, in this sport, rather like we have in UK, certainly on the road, maybe not as much on the track as the Brits have had, but the likes of Kwiatkowski becoming the world champion, first Pole to win a monument as well, of course Rafał Majka, Tour de France, King of the Mountains a couple of times, he won his own national tour as well, and he's a man to watch as we go towards the Vuelta a España, maybe, we'll have to see.
Yeah, they've always been pretty good on the track with male sprinters. They've always had a couple of guys up there, but last couple of years, as you say, certainly made their mark on the road. Maybe not in the same sort of stamp your foot all over it as the British have with Team Sky and the British riders, and they've had 3 or 4 riders that have been up there. But yeah, certainly for one of the smaller nations with less of an infrastructure and less funding, shall we say, they've had great success.
Well, and let's not forget Kasia Niewiadoma as well, who's actually just signed for Canyon SRAM for next year. She's going to be changing teams. One of the stars in the women's peloton. Has been Polish champion, has been European champion already. Movement for Vincenzo Nibali on the right-hand side.
You can just sense, can't you, that everybody knows what's coming up here. We've got this last climb, the biggest climb of the day, and then we've got the kick up to the finish, and you can just sense everyone just starting to get to the front. The road's not particularly narrow, but you certainly wouldn't want to get stuck down the back, and nervous times, especially if there's a touch of wheels or something.
Well, Katusha on the left-hand side, they have both Imnod Zakarin and Simon Špilak. The one-week stage race specialist is here from Slovenia. On the left-hand side, you can see Ruben Placer, who's in the navy jersey with the yellow little bits on his helmet and sleeve. He's riding for Orica Scott. And, of course, centre stage, back in their black jerseys after they wore white at the Tour de France. It's Team Sky. On the left-hand side, you can see Gouache. Just behind him is Ian Boswell. And Wout Poels at the back of this formation. In front of him, Diego Rosa. As it stands, it looks as though Wout Poels the man they're riding for.
Looks that way. And, you know, we keep saying he's been out most of the year injured, so he'll be trying to make his mark on something. The team will want him to come back and get some results as well. I think I'm right in saying his contract's up at the end of this year as well, so wouldn't say he needs a result because he's been very good for Sky over the last few years, but it certainly wouldn't do him any harm at this stage of the year, would it?
Lotto Soudal to hit the front as well. Remember, Rafa Valls riding for them at this race, but de Klerk can climb as well. Rafa Valls just being escorted to the front. We said this was a winter sports resort. In fact, Szczyrk, where we finished today, is actually the home of about half of the Polish Olympic winter sports team. So you can imagine with the Winter Olympics coming up in South Korea in February, it's going to be a very busy place over the next few months where a lot of training and medals, hopefully for the Poles anyway, are prepared. Just less than 20 kilometres to go. Katusha Alpecin at the front in their red jerseys. Left-hand side you can see Team Sunweb in the black and white. Behind them in the similarly black and white with the little bits of green on, that's Team Dimension Data. They're racing here with Nathan Haas on their minds, but they've also got Natnal Berhane as well for the hills. Christian Sbaragli is the man moving things on at the front. You can see Rory Sutherland, the Australian, riding for Movistar, who's just hidden himself away again in the navy blue, and they've got a very strong team, as you'd expect a Movistar team to have. Winner Anacona, Gorka Zaguirre, Dyer Quintana, some top climbers.
Yeah, and you can just see Sky there having a quick chat. How are we going to do this one? And Wout Poels just on the back of those two riders there. Representation from everybody pretty much at the front there, isn't there? You know, there's not one team taking it up. As you say, we've got Sky, Katusha, Sunweb, Cannondale, BMC. You can see just a little bit further back down there lining up. And the bunch really has been shredded, as it we're probably down to 60 or 70 riders left in this front group.
40 kilometres per hour here they're riding. It's moving a lot quicker than it looks.
Uphill.
Samuel Sanchez in about 20th position. Let's not forget the team that BMC have at this race. It's packed with quality. Dennis, Hermons, Sanchez, Turns, who won the overall last week in Wallonie, and of course TJ Van Garderen, as we get another glimpse on the right of Vincenzo Nibali. Peter Sagan still in this group on the left-hand side. There he's in the white jersey for the best sprinter. Just being helped towards the front, but of course you imagine that if it is going to be a climber's day, Borohan's going to need to flick the switch quickly because it's Rafael Majka they need to be looking after.
Yeah, you know, Sagan, he's up there, he can climb, and he's won this race in the past when the course was slightly flatter than it is this year. Two very hilly stages this year. But, yeah, you know, he's been away for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We don't know what sort of condition he's in for the climbs. He might have done a lot of work for this. I should imagine he's another rider that's going to go to the Vuelta to try and get some results. And see here Katusha just getting a last drink before they really start this climb proper.
Oh, this is José Gonçalves, who was in the break of the day earlier on today. The Portuguese rider himself, a new contract man, signed for another year at Katusha Alpecin. Look on the left-hand side, Imnod Zakarin, the man from Tatarstan in Russia.
Yeah, and you could just see Bahrain Merida moving up there with Nibali on the back of a two-rider train. So just dropped in there just behind Katusha. Katusha doing an awful lot of work for this one. You would think that's for Zakarin, wouldn't you? He's their out-and-out climber.
Zakarin or Špilak? All depends. I know that Zakarin was racing a couple of weeks ago and didn't seem to have it. Špilak is the man at the back of the group at the minute, but doesn't always tell the full story, that.
Yeah, another rider just moving up on the left there as well for Katusha, so they really do want to pack the front out. Don't forget, it's a team that's had a result yesterday, didn't they, with Christoph winning Ride London, so they're on the up and they'll want to get a result here as well.
Well, we're approaching the Salmopol climb. Salmopol climb for the final time. Of course, the steeper slopes of it. It starts with a 3% average, then it's 1% for a kilometre, 2, 3, 3 again. It's only halfway as it become a proper climb, if you like, 5.2%, 6.4%, and then the penultimate kilometre is 7.5%.
And that's damaging, you know, because those sort of ramps like that, you have to sit there, and you can see how hard the guys are going here. You know, they're big ring, they're, as you said, 40 kilometres an hour. It'll put you into trouble, and then the minute you hit those steeper climbs, you've got nothing to respond. You're already on the limit.
It's funny, isn't it? We can talk about the big alpine climbs in the Tour, the Giro, the Vuelta. Sometimes it's not about the parkour, it's about how it's ridden. And people like Sagan will be just hoping to hang on here and to try and do something towards the end on a little punchy finish, if you like. But if the climbers ride them all off the wheel, then that's a different story. It all depends on how the teams use their domestics here.
The most innocuous climb in the world can be hard if you're going up it at 50, 60 kilometres an hour. And you can see here, it lures you into a false sense of security because it doesn't look like it's particularly hard. It's not, you can't see the road really going uphill in front of you. But if you're going hard enough up it in the big ring, it'll put you into trouble very quickly.
We'll remind you, if you're just joining us, that the yellow jersey has been dropped to Danny van Poppel. Peter Sagan towards the back now. That's interesting, as Katusha look like they want to make this really hard. Either Spilak, Zakarin or both. Obviously keen here, and Spilak, actually thinking about it, is a man who gets over climbs well. He's won the Tour de Romandie on an occasion. He's won the Tour de Suisse as well. He's been up there on the podium. He's also got quite a sprint on him for a climber.
Yeah, absolutely. A very good rider as well. And Katusha rider there just does his turn on the front, and that really is bailing out, taking to the pavement, isn't it?
There is José Gonçalves. He's had a very good day. In the break for most of the day, doing his work there. Oh, and look at Pelizzotti was being dropped at the back there.
You can see there, they're all, when they're pulling the pin, they're just jumping on the pavement. One of the Orica Scott riders just jumping on the pavement down the right-hand side.
Cesare Benedetti on the far left-hand side is the latest to just look around. I think he's in charge of looking after Peter Sagan at the moment, Italian climber.
And this is, we've got 16 kilometres to go. One of the Sky Riders there. Is that Boswell?
It's Michał Gołasz who's done his job. He was there riding at the front, the former Polish national champion. And there he is alongside 191, who is Pavel Brut, one of the most experienced riders in the whole international peloton.
So we crest the top of this climb with 11 kilometres to go. So we're just about starting to get into the really hard, steep section of this climb.
Youssef Reguigui, the Algerian national champion, decent classics rider. He's been dropped as well, so he's not a man who certainly doesn't know how to climb. Julien Bernal being dropped again. Obviously not in great shape at the minute because he is a budding GC man. Yeah,
you can see it's really getting shredded down the back here. Another one of the Trek Segafredo riders, CCC, and Lotto Soudal riders getting dropped there. That was Yeli Wallace as well, so he's struggling. That's a surprise.
This is Pavel Kochetkov, the Russian rider for Team Katusha Alpecin. Katusha Alpecin, who are no longer a Russian-registered team, by the way. They're now a Swiss team. They still have their Russian star, second to last wheel, Ilnur Zakarin. He's actually moved to Cyprus now, where he trains in the Troodos Mountains.
And that's a great place to train. We went there in 2004 on a pre-Olympic training camp. Absolutely, the mountain goes on for hours.
Very warm conditions as well. I've actually ridden in the Turkish side, in the north.
Yeah.
Not as high mountains, but very, very hot conditions. Good roads, though. Very good roads.
Yeah, great roads. Absolutely brilliant roads. You can ride for hours and not see a car.
15 kilometres to go on stage 3 of the Tour of Poland. It's hotting up, and Team Katusha Alpecin are responsible for making this a very difficult bike race today.
And aren't they just, you know, you can see how fast it is as well. The guys that run at the side of the road trying to keep up with them aren't getting anywhere near them. So although we're on a climb, it's not, as you say, it's not an alpine climb or a Pyrenean climb. It's not very steep, but one of the Sky Riders there just got shredded by virtue of how fast the pace is. Still quite a big group, but you can see the riders are getting pinged off the back quite readily. Who is it from Sky on the left?
May struggling at the back for Lotto Soudal. Sky Rider there.
Two.
Looked to be Salvatore Puccio.
Yeah.
He's the man who covered the first attacks, didn't he, when we saw Davide Villela lighting up for Cannondale.
Polish national champion getting dropped there as well.
25 there for BMC is Samuel Sanchez.
Peter Sagan still there, but getting closer towards the back.
Well, Kochetkov still doing doing his best to hang around for a minute, but I think that is him for the day. There we go. So 3 left. Szczyrk, as usual, Jersey open. Just see how he goes in this race, because he doesn't like the warm weather, does Szczyrk. He's open, he says, I actually like the cold weather. But it's been 30 degrees this week in Poland.
Yeah, and as you say, 3 of them left. Not ideal, is it? Because one of them's going to be the nominated rider, the other's going to be their sort of last-minute help. So they've got 1 rider to burn up. So, yeah.
Now here goes Zakarin. A little word there from Szczyrk, who sent Zakarin on the attack. It looks to me as though they're riding for Szczyrk, but Zakarin sent up the road to try and see if they can force a reaction.
AG2R just thought about coming across to it, but doesn't at the moment, so no reaction. Zakarin got about 30 metres lead at the moment. He is a good climber. He can time trial as well.
Bahrain Merida, the team to try and chase this down. Of course, Vincenzo Nibali has come here looking to fine-tune his form ahead of the Vuelta a España. Hasn't really raced too much since the Giro d'Italia at all.
14 days, I think, he's raced since the Giro.
Yep, of course, went to the Italian Nationals, which is now obligatory if you want to make the Italian national team. But look at Ilno Zakarin here. He wants to have a go at the Vuelta a España this year. Very good in the Giro d'Italia. Zakarin developing year upon year upon year. Doing his best to try and use the huge amount of motorbikes. I have to say, it's easy to sit here in the commentary box and criticise, but there are so many on the road in this race.
Yeah, I've done quite a lot of commentary in race convoys and in race radio in the UK in the last couple of weeks, and been involved with a guy called Colin Docker and Aidan Hegarty, who are very experienced commissaires and motorbike riders, motorbike race radio broadcasters, and you kind of get a sense that something needs to be done in these bigger races with all these bikes flitting around. I think a lot of them are the photographers, because most of the cameras are, you know, a world feed that we all pick up on. We all pick the same cameras up, but something really does need to be done about the number of motorbikes in and around the riders.
Well, a lot of the photographers here are getting very, very close as well. I think that was Hubert Dupont who was doing the chasing for AG des Alpes Mondial. Vincenzo Nibali sits 3rd wheel, Rafał Majka 4th wheel just behind him. Diego Rosa and Wout Poels not far away. Ricosta also there, very, very close to Ben Hermans. Hermans in the black and red jersey just behind. .5 kilometres to go and 8 seconds on the attack now on the final climb of the day for Ilno Zakarin. Following this final climb, there'll be a descent and a short rise to the line. Remember, the leader of the Tour de Polonia 2017 has been dropped from this group. Danny van Poppel not in with a shout of keeping the jersey today. It is up for grabs, and with 100 riders still within 10 seconds, it's a Zak attack on the front. Zakarin away by 8 seconds and forcing the other teams to chase, which they're doing rather well at the minute. This is BMC Racing.
You've been spending too much time with Carlton Kirby coming out with things like that, but yeah, Zakarin off the front of the bunch, not opening up a massive gap, is he? He's got about another 2 kilometres to go until he starts the descent, but then if he's going to use all his energy to get down the descent ahead of the bunch to that last climb, it really is going to hurt him. That last climb is a real sting in the tail.
It's like Rowan and Dennis on the front for BMC Racing. Actually, Rowan Dennis and TJ van Garderen both riding this week, but the team insisting that their leaders were Ben Hermans and Dylan Teuns, the 2 Belgians. Of course, something we often see in cycling. One of the nice things when you see that people are expected to help in the big races, get their chances in the smaller races, and for Ilno Zakarin, the first attack is done, but that's done a decent job for Katusha, because it's forced a lot of their rivals, and Szczyrk's rivals for the overall, to use up some of their men.
Yeah, I think you would expect to see Zakarin get a bigger gap than that. He's quite an explosive climber, and that does show you how shallow this climb is at the moment. You know, on a steeper climb he would be able to open a bigger gap, but you can see here the rider's still churning the big gears around getting up here, but we haven't got one team having a lot of representation on the front. We've got one BMC followed by a Sky followed by an Orica, so you can see that riders are getting shredded in this front group. If we look down the back, it's in one line. Sagan's still managing. Yeah, that's the is that the front group?
That is the front group
he's still with. So what do we got here? 45 riders, do you think?
Not even that. Just less than 2 kilometres to the top of this climb. This is the steepest part of the climb now. Above 7%.
Sagan's
holding on very
he's looking
well.
pretty lean, isn't he? You know, he shaved his hair off, so he saved a couple of kilos there.
1-2-7 next to him is Giovanni Visconti. This is Rowan Dennis at the front. Just behind him in the all-black jersey with the blue helmet on is Diego Rosa. You see Bob Youngles close to the front as well. Domenico Pozzovivo is there too.
That's not a bad shout, Pozzovivo. This is, you know, the last climb's a sort of climb he could really get up there. Explosive, very small Italian little climber.
Ivan Rovny at the back, the former Tinkoff rider, very good in the medium mountains. He was excellent for Alberto Contador when he won the Giro just over a year ago now. Team somewhere with a few jerseys and riders still in there as well. François Bidard still also there for AG de Zelle Mondial. But it's Rowan Dennis at the minute is doing a really good job for Dylan Teuns, who sits fourth wheel. Dylan Teuns, brilliant, remember, in the Tour de Wallonie last week, the winner in fact. For Sky, it looks as though Wout Poels is the main man. Sits waiting on the wheel as Rovny has dropped. Another man to lose contact is just behind. And we've got a move. We have a move from Orica Scott. It looks to be Jack Haig. Jack Haig, Robert Power, also a very, very good climber in this particular team.
So the gap opened up there. He opened up that gap very quickly. You can see BMC on the front just trying to up the pace a little bit. No one team's got that big domination at the front to try and control it, and you can see further down the back riders getting pinged off left, right and centre here. So this group is shredding down. I think we've got about 800 metres, 700 metres to go until the top of this climb.
Jack Haig for Australia and Orica Scott. Very, very close to the top. Remember, Adam Yates is in this group. Interesting to see if BMC can get away, as we've got the local equivalent of the Vuvuzela at the top. Polish fans, a lot cooler at this time of day than it has been for the last couple of stages. It's been well into the 30s as more riders have dropped towards the back. Looks like Luis Leon Sanchez to me in trouble. It is 1:63. So strong at the Giro d'Italia this year. And this is a good distance for Haig now. Much stronger than the Zakharin attack.
Yeah, very much so. This is the sort of gap you would have expected Zakharin to be able to open up. But Jack Haig here, good probably 100 metres off the front of the bunch. BMC followed by Sky getting ready to do the chasing on the front. But as we say, we've got a descent coming up in about 300 metres time. And then the last sting in the tail, that last climb, which kicks up from 2 kilometres out.
Jack Haig, who finished third in the Tour of Slovenia this year, has yet to win a professional bike race. He's 23 now. He's a huge talent. Second proper year as a professional. Of course, he was a stagiaire the year before last. He's approaching the top of this climb now, and at the very least, he's going to get some King of the Mountains points, it seems. 13 seconds is the lead.
I don't think the clicker on the left is right. That hasn't moved for a while, that 11.4.
He goes past that DD the Devil impersonator on the left-hand side.
And
up to the inflatables, and he's going to take the points.
The clicker's just gone up, so
to go.
I'm not sure that's right. Ah, there you go. It's just corrected itself, 10.9.
So the top of the climb at Salmopol, that's it. Descent now, fast descent, and then a little bit of a rise to the line. Jack Haig, 17 seconds, and a great opportunity to try and do something for the first time in a pro bike race, but they're getting interested behind. On the right-hand side, it's Diego Rosa. On the left-hand side, just taking a bead on with the white, brown and blue on is Domenico Pozzovivo, the Italian climber for the French team AG de Zelle. You can see as well Dylan Teuns on the left-hand side in the red and black. He won the Tour of Wallonia last week. Just behind him is Vincenzo Nibali. While Poels is there, Rafał Majka, Rui Costa. There's some stellar names chasing this young man.
Yeah, and we've obviously got the warm weather protocol. The riders allowed to grab a drink up there when normally they're not allowed to feed within the last 20 kilometres. But Jack Haig here flying down this descent, and you're always better going down the descent on your own. You can pick your lines. You haven't got to worry about anyone undertaking you, as we saw in the Tour de France. Very nasty crash with Richie Porte and Dan Martin, who it transpires broke a couple of vertebrae in that crash and still carried on. I mean, that's hardcore. But down we go. 17 seconds now the lead for Jack Haig with 9.3 kilometres to go. Don't forget that last sting in the tail. That's the one that he's going to need to save some spinach for at the end.
8 kilometres still to go on stage 3 of the Tour of Poland. It's been an entertaining up and down sort of day. On our way to Szczyrk today, the winter sports resort. It looks beautiful in summer, in the evening sunshine. The woods are about, and the race is all over the road. Jack Haig of Australia and Orica Scott is out on the attack, and he's got a very, very select group of riders chasing him behind. Whatever happens today, we'll have a new leader. There will be somebody to take over the yellow jersey of Danny van Poppel from Sky. He was dropped quite a way back away. It's his own team that's put him in trouble in part, because they've been racing to try and get either Diego Rosa or Wout Poels up there. At the minute, Jack Haig's doing a good job of staying away. 17 seconds, mostly downhill, but there's a sting in the tail, certainly for the last kilometre or so, uphill again.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to have really exerted that much energy to get away. Yes, he put the attack in, but he's now got the descent. But don't think that because he's on a descent he can just cruise down. You can see just how hard he's trying here on this descent to try and eke this gap out as much as he can. That last kilometre, he could lose 20 seconds very quickly in that last K.
Well, there's a section at 17.2%, reading all the statistics of the climb. Remember, there are over 2,000 metres climbing today. For a short stage, 160 kilometres. It's been a hard day on the bike, and we've only had 2 days of 130 and of 140 Ks. Fresh legs out here.
Well, fresh legs, but don't forget that all that climbing came in the second half of the stage, so there hasn't been a lot of time to recover. And, you know, if they haven't really raced on the descents, but your legs are going to be tired at the end of this one. So Sky still on the front, pushing on. Pozzovivo from AG2R still up there, and he's my outside bet for today.
He's another man wondering whether he's going to stay with Agile Desert. He has an offer, or if he's going to join one of the non-Italian World Tour teams that are run by Italians. I'm thinking Bahrain, Merida, UAE, or even Astana. There's a chat that he could go there.
He took a stage. Did he take a stage in Giro? He did take a stage in a stage race just before the Tour de France. So I think he's
massively... It was in the Tour of Switzerland, actually.
That's it, yeah, that's it. Massively underrated rider, I think. I think he's a great rider.
Just struggles from his lack of time trials. That's what does for him in the Grand Tours, but he's a great stage hunter, isn't he?
I think you could almost write that next to the name of pretty much everyone in AG2R, couldn't you? Pierre Latour did win the French national time trial title just before the Tour de France started, but didn't show any of that form in the Tour de France, and yeah, he really didn't step up and help. I didn't see him really doing what Bardet needed him to do too much at all.
92 kilometres per hour on the descent on that motorbike there, travelling at the same speed of these riders. Now, Diego Rosa has gone away with Pozzovivo on turns. A little bit of a gap open to the riders chasing behind. This is where we are. And that little bit of a gap from the helicopter looked rather big than it does in this shot. It's Wout Poels just closing the gap behind to Dylan Teuns. Rafał Majka's still there in 6th position. Vincenzo Nibali as well. Rui Costa has a teammate with him too. There are some very, very good bike riders still in this group. Bob Jungels as well in the Luxembourg National Champions jersey. Sits right behind Vincenzo Nibali. Red and navy blue top on, gold helmet, the Italian.
So this isn't going to help Haig. The fact that, you know, every now, it's not an alpine descent where he can get lost and they can't see him. There's quite a lot of long open roads where he's in sight of the chasing riders. 20 seconds, there won't be any cars in between him and the bunch, and you can see there Rosa on the front chasing very hard indeed.
Poels just does up his shoe on the left-hand side. You see movement from Rowan Dennis towards the front to try and help with the chase.
Sagan's still in there, so
always
that's a great
dangerous
ride by Peter Sagan to stay in there, given how hilly today has been.
Well, Sagan holding on to that Brest Sprinters jersey at the minute. Could he take back the yellow jersey that he lost yesterday? Remember, some steep pots towards the finish. Let's see how he can get on. Tom Jelter-Slagter on the left-hand side in the green jersey for Cannondale as well. There's a couple of riders from Movistar as Rafał Majka smiles away, knowing that he's got his teammate Sagan there, who's doing his shoes up ready for battle with a white jersey on.
What have we got, 15, 17 riders left here at the most, I would have said.
Nathan Haas in this group for Dimension Data at the back wearing 203. That's Jan Hurt, good rider who rode the Giro d'Italia from the Czech Republic. There's Adam Yates towards the back of the group as well. Gorka Izagirre is still in this group as well. Remember, his brother Jon is a former winner of this race 2 seasons ago.
Had that nasty crash, didn't he, in the prologue of the Tour de France on that corner that also claimed Alessandro Valverde.
15 15 seconds for Jack Haig, 4 kilometres to go. 23 years of age, you can see weighs in at 67 kilos, which for a man of 1m90 is nothing.
Wish I'd weighed in at 67 kilos and I'm 186. So yeah, it amazes me these days just how light these riders are. You know, it's changed completely over the last 10 years, but especially 20 years.
Well, one of the top time trialists in the world, the former holder of the world hour record, is chasing this man down. It's Australian versus Australian. Jack Haig, the climber, against Rowan Dennis, the time trial superstar. And I'm afraid it's the time trial superstar that's winning this battle at the minute, because he's got it down to 8 seconds. Yeah,
and you know, you think the writing's just on the wall here. 3 kilometres to go, 3.2. And when he hits that final ramp, this 5k that he has had to try on the, let's call it false flat here, because he is still descending a little bit, he really is going to get the wind knocked out of his sails. It's such a steep finish to the climb, to the stage. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting one.
A lot of candidates for victory here. A lot of them. Yeah. Rui Koch to look out for him. Nathan Haas is explosive on this kind of effort as well. Peter Sagan is still here. Just 2.6 kilometres remain, and we're about to go uphill again very, very soon. Jack Haig looks like he's going to be caught, but he has a teammate still in here in Adam Yates. Is it going to be a climber, a GC guy, or somebody who's held on? .3 kilometres to go. Jonas Zakarin holds on at the back of this group. His teammate Simon Spilak is still in the group, as Jack Haig left it to take maximum points on the top of the climb. Hasn't been able to hang on for just now, though. He's been out there for 6-7 kilometres. 2Ks to go. Looks as though he's going to be caught. BMC have a super strong team here, and Rowan Dennis has done some real work for Dylan Teuns today.
Yeah, Rowan Dennis is smashing this one into the climb as hard as he can. So 2k, 1.7k to go now. Sagan and Micah in there for Bora Hansgrohe, and that's one you've got to look at and think that, you know, you're going to be hard pressed to go up against those two.
Rowan Dennis has done his job. You can see now hitting the front, it's Diego Rosa riding for Team Sky, and Wout Poels is on the right hand side moving up onto his teammate's wheel. Left hand turn here, Sky in a very good position just behind them. Dylan Teuns for BMC. Jack Haig is about to be caught, and it's time to start the fireworks. So Sky taking up at the front with Rosa on the left hand side, the Italian. This is second year at the team now, first year at the team, pardon me, and he's really, really settled in quite well. He was so good for Astana at the end of last season, almost won Giro di Lombardia, having been in the break and worked for his teammate earlier on. Jack Haig, though, is putting in a great ride here on the right-hand side. He's going to be caught, but he's not giving up without a fight.
No, he's really driving on and getting that TV time for his team. The left-hand turn we just saw, if they'd gone straight on, they would have gone right into the centre of town. So we're now doing a semicircle around the outside of the town. When we start taking the tight corners, you know the finish is just coming up. 1k to go now.
Oh, and he's finished out of gas. His teammate Adam Yates is up towards the back. Thomas Marcinski here, the former Polish champion, still there for Lotto Soudal as well. As we can see movement from UAE Team Emirates on the right-hand side too. Anas Al Abdia is still there. It moves up, and it's Valerio Conti who's going to have a go at the front. 17.2% they go on to. Wout Poels is there for Sky. Look at Peter Sagan in the white jersey.
Take a look at the driveways at the side of the road if you want to see how steep this road is. These riders really are grinding up. It's Sagan right up the front there in the mix.
Being dropped to the back with 203 on his back is Jan Hurt. This is Valerio Conti, who, remember, on the Giro d'Italia looks set to win a stage when he crashed out on an uphill on a bend. Very, very close, and that was on the stage that was won by Gorka Izagirre. He's still in this group somewhere as Peter Sagan is holding on. At the minute, Conti looks like he's riding away from them. Everybody looking around, and this is a great opportunity for the young Italian.
Yeah, the gradient of this climb does ease off the further they get up it and closer to the finish. Opened up a nice gap here, Conti has, and we can just see in the background is Yates attacking now on the front of the group.
Adam Yates in the navy blue then. Valerio Conti have been looking to make it 2 in 2 for Team Emirates, but look at this from Adam Yates, and he's being followed by Dylan Teuns, the winner in the Tour of Wallonia last week. Yates is getting close. The gradient is still mightily steep. It's up at 15.1% here. Yates looks around and sees Teuns with him, a man in form, the Belgian, but look at Adam Yates.
Great ride there by Adam Yates, former white jersey winner in the Tour de France. Sagan in the background looks to be struggling a little bit. Pozzovivo still there though.
Well, Adam Yates at the minute at the front with the green helmet on and the navy top. He still has Dylan Teuns with him, 200 metres to go. The gradient is still at 15% here. Sam Uhrmann is gaining up behind Pozzovivo in the brown shorts as well. And look at Dylan Teuns, who's going to hit the front. Teuns, who took 2 stages in the Tour of Wallonia the other week and won the overall, is looking mightily strong. Wilco Kelderman is gaining though just behind him. Kelderman wearing 85, and there is Wilco Kelderman now. Can he catch Dylan Teuns? Kelderman, the time trialist, and here comes Peter Sagan as well. This climb is going on forever and ever and ever. A huge steep wall, and can Dylan Teuns survive?
Well, Sagan is smashing his way through this group, but we're right into the advertising hoardings now. Micah as well coming back through.
Another left turn to go. Spiral staircase almost to the top, and I think that Dylan Teuns might just have this. Teuns to look behind, surely he's got it now. It's Teuns first, Sagan second, Micah third, with Kelderman there as well. And Dylan Teuns, who followed the right wheel when Adam Yates attacked, able to time his own attack and hold on brilliantly. And he can just not stop winning at the moment. Teuns with 2 stages and the overall at his home Tour of Wallonia in Belgium. Here takes a World Tour win on stage 3 of the Tour of Poland.
And you can see from just how tired the riders are at the top of this climb, how hard that last kilometre was. Peter Sagan, a great ride to come back from, looked like he was out the back of the group, and him and Micah come flying up to take second and third. Great ride though by Dylan Teuns of BMC after, you know, the team had a fairly disappointing Tour de France after Richie Porte was out injured. Takes another victory after Tour of Wallonia last week. And, this is really going to make the GC interesting with Sagan and Micah now. Probably first and second, I think.
It looks as though Sagan, to me, with the bonus seconds at the top here, will have done enough to keep or retain the yellow jersey after he lost it yesterday. Of course, he was on the same time as Danny van Poppel. We'll have to wait for confirmation and the gaps, but they didn't look that big to me. Teuns has taken the 10 bonus seconds, but of course Sagan behind. And here we go, yet same time, so Sagan should retain the yellow jersey here. It's Teuns from Sagan, from Micah and Kelderman. Slagter in 5th, a good result for him. Eiking, Pozzovivo, Yates, Pools and Uhrmann. And look at that, 14 seconds from 1st to 10th. That was a horrible finish for a lot of the guys. Teuns held on best and took stage 3. Oh, what a finish. A huge Belgian classic type finish. It was almost like watching Fleshwell on at the end there.
That's a big hotel. It's
This was the move again. On the right-hand side, Adam Yates, the British rider from Orica Scott. Teuns, he looks like he's flying here. Well, sails past him.
Yeah, I mean, Yates put the effort in, Teuns followed him, and then when Teuns went through, Yates just couldn't respond. But you can see, look how steep that road is there. It's ridiculously steep. You see everybody else in the background trying to get on Teuns, Pozzovivo there. And at this stage, you can only just see Sagan in the background and Micah there on his left. Walt Paul's there in the background as well, so they really did close it down. And it's the old adage, if it was 10 metres further, Sagan would have won another stage, but it wasn't, and he didn't. I think if you're a team and you're looking at today's stage against how much work you've done, I think Sky are probably going to be a bit disappointed.
Dylan Teuns has been a professional bike racer for 3 years. 7 days ago, he'd never won a professional bike race. Now he has 4. It has been quite a week and a half or so for Dylan Teuns. Took stage 3, took stage 5, took the overall of the Tour de Wallonie. And he's just taken stage 3 of the Tour de Polonia, and he's put himself in the mix. What expected to be a big week of racing.
There's nothing like a race win to give you a bit of belief in yourself, and it's generally, not generally, but it can be the way, can't it? One win, and all of a sudden you start uncorking them left, right, and centre. Look at that fight in the background there for third and second from Micah and Sagan.
Peter Sagan closing a gap to make sure that there was not a time gap between that group of 4 riders at the front. Sagan should take the yellow jersey. Dylan Teuns takes the stage. The Polish winter sports team is based here. On the road, the bikers have done a mighty job up the hill to Szczyrk. The winner, Dylan Turns. The yellow jersey, Peter Sagan. And the Tour of Poland is alive and well. We've had some highly entertaining racing today, and well, up and down all day, shorter stages. If we see racing like that, I'm all for it.
Well, we had a couple at the Tour de France, didn't we? A couple of shorter stages, and they really were animated, and racing was on from the word go. So who says we need 220 kilometre stages for great racing? Just waiting for the overall classification to be done.
We do think that Peter Sagan will have taken the yellow jersey back after he lost it yesterday by virtue of the points classification. Of course, he was level on time with Danny van Poppel. He was level on time as well with Caleb Ewan. I can tell you now that he should be in the lead with 6 bonus seconds there. He finished second. His teammate Rafał Majka up there in third as well, and Bora Hansgrohe is sitting very, very pretty.
That's going to make the GC very, very comfortable for them. And there's going to be some big time gaps today because this last climb is a real stinker. It's only a kilometre long, but really does put you into some trouble.
The riders are going to be finishing for a while here. They'll do so in front of a very impressive crowd, as always, at the Tour of Poland. Polish national team riders across the line. Today has seen the first big gaps in the general classification. Plenty more to fight out for. There's Natnael Berhane, the former champion of Eritrea, on the right side. Matej Mohoric as well. Is this Rafa Wiles? Oh dear. Well,
yeah, saw him get dropped on that second last climb.
Well, one by one the riders finish. I can tell you that Dylan Turns, the 25-year-old from Belgium, racing for BMC, has finished first. There's Chad Hager coming across the line. He did his job on the penultimate climb for Team Sunweb. They had a very good go with Wilco Kelderman, who looked at one stage to have the gas to take it through. But it was so difficult with those 17 and 15% gradients towards the end. Really didn't know if you had the legs until you hit the gradients.
No, and you know, we said about Jack Haig having that at one time 20-second lead. That would have got just gobbled up within a matter of meters on this climb. The effort he had to put in to get that, even if he had stayed away a little bit longer. We saw him get caught on the right at the bottom of this climb, but even if he had stayed away a little bit longer, he would have got caught so quickly. It was such a hard climb to finish the stage on.
Well, as they bang the boards, as we wait to get confirmation that Peter Sagan is the new leader, we certainly think that's been the case. I tell you that the winner on the day was Dylan Turns.